I'm gonna be honest. Before this happened, when it comes to Bigfoot, I have been very skeptical because there's not enough evidence that would make me even consider that there could be a Bigfoot. It was about 8:15 in the morning. I was just driving the car. I was on First Avenue, and I had gotten off I-55. I was heading over to visit my mother at her job. I was driving near Zoo Woods, which is some sort of forest area. I was driving, and I was on the phone. I looked to my right, and I saw something very, very tall, like between 8 and 9 feet, hairy. It was running through the woods. I remembered the sun reflecting off its outside of the fur, and it gave it like an orange tint. A golden retriever has hair that color. Make it a little darker and with a little more copper tone, more redhead feel to it. I think that would be the color I am trying to accurately describe. I stopped in mid-traffic, put my hazards on, and I pulled over right away. I had just seen something moving through the trees. 9 foot tall, orange fur. It just kind of ran through about 5 feet of brush. The trees were moving. I saw it. I slammed on my brakes, got out of my car, put my hazards on. I ran over to where I saw it, because I had already passed by it. I had to run back a little bit to go in the area where I saw it. There were broken tree branches. I couldn't see any prints, no fur, no evidence besides the broken trees. There was a terrible odor, like a musky, wet dog smell. Maybe worse than that, more putrid smelling. It was like if you're running through the woods, and you are 9 feet tall, and you're about 10 feet into the woods before the outside of the woods stops. That's how far into the woods it was. It had arms, and it was running, and it was very big. I only told a couple of people, and then I let it go. In 1968, September, last part, a friend of mine and I were trying to find a place that 2 girls we met had invited us up for the night, somewhere east of Carpentersville. From looking at the maps from today, it would seem like we were lost in what is now Barrington Hills, or somewhere around there. This is in Illinois. Lots of woods and nothing else. We realized we were lost. We took the next road to the left just to turn around and go back towards Carpentersville. As we came to a stop just off the road, before we started to back up onto the main road, a creature about as tall as the Ford van we were in started to cross the side of the road from our left to right, about 20 feet in front of the van. It had a long stride, stood upright, was covered with dark brownish to light black straight hair, about 6 to maybe 10 inches long in some spots. It was swinging its arms that looked like they were too long for its torso. Its head was turned to its right and was almost looking straight at us as it crossed and as we were backing to get out of there. Its face was also covered with the same type of hair but shorter, and not so much around the eyes and nose and mouth. It had no muzzle or snout like a chimp would have, just a flatter face. As we were backing onto the main road, I was looking to my right and we began to pull away. I thought I saw it coming back towards the van, like it had changed directions and it was going to chase the van. This scared me even more than I already was, and my friend was no different. Really scared. It looked so powerful, like it could have torn the doors off with no trouble whatsoever. We just kind of looked at each other for a few seconds as we drove out of there, saying over and over, "What the hell was that? What the hell was that?" Needless to say, no one believed us, and I couldn't blame them either, because if someone had come to me and told me that same story as I told you, I wouldn't believe them either, except for one thing. I was there, and I know what I saw, just not what it was that I saw. I was taking a bike ride along the river in 67 in August. I was very tired, so I sat down on this fallen log and was just watching the river peacefully. Across the river, in the dark shadows of the forest, a shadowy figure emerged. I watched it closely while it was splashing in the water, like it was looking for fresh fish, clams, or even crayfish. It scared me because it was covered with a thick coat of hair, just like an ape. It resembled a cross between an ape and a caveman. As I watched it through the ragweed and cattails, which hid me, I cleared my throat and coughed. It looked all around and seemed to be agitated. I kept sitting on the log because I lost sight of the creature. All of a sudden, 3 huge rocks were tossed from the river toward me. They were the size of throw pillows. Moved out with my bike around the cattail behind and saw it face to face. I yelled, "Wow!" It was moving into the cattails, for it crossed the river without a sound. Upon seeing me, it picked up more rocks and hurled them at me. It was muscular, black-brown in color, with mud on its face and very wrinkled skin. It had bulging eyes and a pushed-in nose. As I ran as fast as I could along the game trail along the river. As I ran, I heard a howl that sounded like an air raid siren. As I ran, I heard screaming and saw shadowy figures on the other side of the river moving. More Bigfoots? I got to the parking lot on East River Road and leapt. I had an encounter with a Sasquatch that we called the Big Muddy Monster at a pond in Illinois called A41. Well, guess what? I was just watching TV, and they just ran a story about the same monster that I had encountered while I was going to Southern Illinois University in Illinois. Carbondale, to be exact. I was the bartender at Midland Inn. This thing was in the wooded area behind where I was fishing. I kept hearing the brush breaking behind me, but thought it was squirrels or deer, or even turkey. Then it began breaking whole trees, snapping them like they were twigs. I started getting very scared as the area I was fishing was miles from my truck or any road. You had to trek in. Then, a huge chunk of rock splashed into the water in front of me. Then another. I turned around and it was standing there, looking very pissed off that I was there. It immediately let out a scream. I can still imitate this scream. It starts out as a high-pitched siren-type scream that makes every hair on your body stand up. Then it gets higher-pitched and is so loud you can't believe what is happening. With one step, this thing could have reached out and twisted my head right off my shoulders. I knew I could not outrun it, so I just froze. I could not believe what was happening or what I was seeing. This thing was 5 feet wide at the shoulders. I was on the lowest side of the hill, so I got a real good look and estimate on height, but I'm going to say it was at least 7 feet. Nothing but pure muscle, athletic bodybuilder outlined upper torso. A couple of seconds later, after it screamed, I was trying to think of an escape and turned away from it. It retreated back into the woods so fast that I lost sight of it against the wooded background almost immediately. I grabbed whatever gear I could and started running back down the trail as fast as I could. I don't know what I left there or what I took with me. I ran as far as I could until all I could do was fast jog all the way back to the car. I was playing rugby at the time and was in pretty good physical shape. The whole time I was running, I was thinking that it could have overtook me at any time. But there is more to this story. I had been fishing for bass with a large shiner minnows for a couple of hours. I was hearing something behind me in the brush. I kept fishing. Something was stealing my bait off the hook, time after time, but I could never hook anything. A fat blackwater moccasin surfed around the bank, so I switched hooks to a number 5 treble hook and snagged it. When I set it down on the bank and beat its head in with a stick, that's when all hell broke loose. To me, it seemed that the creature was watching me the whole time I was fishing. After I killed the water snake and wrapped it around a branch, I pinned it to a tree. Right then is when the huge rocks hit the water. Trees began snapping, and I turned around to scream. This is a true story. I fished this small lake several times before this happened, but have never returned. My memory will never forget this spot on the lake, the snake, the scream, the creature. It has been over 20 years. Story has always been told the same.